Let's start today with a sort of thick and meaty policy segment, and let's talk about Social Security. And the context of this, and it's been much requested by many of you, is the absolute apoplexy from Republicans at the mere suggestion that over the last few years, they've hinted at and even sometimes overtly said, maybe we should cut Social Security. Maybe the cuts would be lower benefits. Maybe the cuts would be you have to work longer, meaning raise the retirement age or whatever the case may be. But when Joe Biden said at his State of the Union address a couple of weeks ago, some of these Republicans want to cut Social Security, they went crazy and started saying Joe Biden is a liar and we would never do that, and on and on and on. And then yesterday on CNBC, in comes former Vice President Mike Pence, and he says, oh, we should definitely put on the table that we might cut Social Security and Medicare. They've spent weeks saying we would never do that. Stop accusing us of maybe wanting to be open to considering the possibility of ever cutting Social Security and Medicare. And then here's Mike Pence saying, oh, no, like we should definitely think of that because of the debt.
Is that, well, I respect the Speaker's commitment to take Social Security and Medicare off the table for the debt ceiling negotiations. We've got to put them on the table in the long term. And right now, President Biden's policy is insolvency. I mean, we're looking at a debt crisis in this country over the next 25 years that is driven by entitlements, and nobody in Washington, D.C. wants to talk about it. I've been going around the country. I'm going to continue to try and do my part.
Yeah. Are you talking about entitlements?
People.
What a heroic thing he's doing.
What would you do about entitlements?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to explain to people what's going on. We got a $32 trillion national debt right now, Andrew. Having a national debt the same size as our nation's economy is unsustainable. Last time that happened was right after World War
I don't disagree with you. I'm just curious, what's on the for you on entitlements, what's on the table?
Well, I think it begins with education. It begins with having the American people understand.
Yeah. So twice, like, what exactly would you do? Well, we got to tell people all about it. Remember what happened at the State of the Union when Joe Biden merely suggested some Republicans are open to cutting.
Take the economy hostage. I get it. Unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are.
Yeah.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
No.
Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. Of the proposal.
And there was, you saw Marjorie Trader Green standing and screaming. So they say for weeks and weeks, no, we would never, ever, 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 ever do that. And then here goes Mike Pence, and he's like, oh, yeah, it should absolutely be on the table. We have way too much debt. So let's talk about the truth on this talking point so that we can all understand what is going on, because the right says Social Security is insolvent. It just doesn't work. Financially, it doesn't work. Here's the truth. And the truth is, it's a good thing and a bad thing that it's really clear what's going on. Because sometimes when things are so clear and simple, the right loves to pretend like they're really complicated. Despite Republicans claiming Social Security is insolvent, meaning unable to pay the benefits that it owes or will owe people, if we do nothing, we change nothing at all about Social Security, there is enough money to pay full benefits until 2035. That means, like, if you keep doing just the inflation adjustments for cost of living to what people get, you change nothing about what people in other than continuing to do the inflation adjustment to the Social Security cap. Like, literally nothing changes until 2035. There is no problem. And if we continue with the do nothing scenario, starting in 2035, you can reduce benefits to 80% of what they would be inflation adjusted. And then it still continues to be fine, making no changes whatsoever other than moving benefits from 100 to 80%. Now, what is the reason that this is going on? Why is this even a conversation? Changing demographics. More and more people are retiring relative to the number of workers. So as baby boomers continue to retire, the number of people receiving benefits relative to the number of people paying in is going to fall out of balance towards the retirees. And then secondly, people on average are living longer, meaning that the estimates for how long people are going to be receiving benefits, it's more years because people are living longer. Okay, now, I think it's unacceptable to go down to 80% of benefits. But again, with doing nothing, fine until 2035, and then fine for a very long time on 80% of benefits. I believe if you've paid in based on getting 100% of benefits, you should get them. Okay. But I've laid out the do nothing scenario. It's not exactly insolvent, is it? It's everything's fine for 11, 12 years. And then we do a 20% reduction. But let's fix it. Okay. How do we fix it? There's quite a few ways. They're relatively simple. It's just a matter of finding the political will to do it. As a reminder, right now in 2023, Social Security contributions are made on your first $160,000 that you earn per year. Okay. Once you get beyond 160, you stop paying into Social Security. The amount that is paid in is 12.4%. Now, many of you might say, David, I'm only paying 6.2%. The reason is that in a normal job, if you're a W-2 employee, that 12.4% is divided between you and your employer. So instead of you paying 12.4%, you pay 6.2, your employer pays 6.2. If you're self-employed like me, you pay the full 12.4%. Okay, so what can you do? One thing you can do is you can increase that rate. You could say instead of 12.4%, it's going to be something higher on that first $160,000. I don't like that idea because it disproportionately hits those earning under 160,000. But you could do that. You could say instead of 12.4%, we're going to pay 15%, and that's going to stretch out how long we can pay 100% of benefits. Second option, you can raise the cap. So you keep it at 12.4%, but instead of paying that on your first 160,000 that you make, maybe you pay it on your first 180 or maybe on your first 200. That seems like a better option to me. Number three, you could raise the retirement age. It's very controversial. I don't like it, but you could say, well, you've got to wait longer before you can get benefits. What I do like is giving a bonus if you delay retirement by choice. This is already part of the way it works. And for people for whom this is new, I think it's useful to know this stuff. Right now, you can start receiving reduced benefits at age 62. The standard age to get benefits is 67. So your 100% benefit would be if you say at 67 years of age, I want to start getting the benefits. From 62 to 67, you get less. And if you at age 67 say, I don't need the money yet, either because I have private retirement or I'm going to continue working or whatever, if you say, I'm going to wait until I'm 68 or 69 or 70, you get even more benefits when you do retire. We could expand that and say, hey, you know what? People are living longer. And many people would gladly delay getting their Social Security benefits. You could say, if you choose to wait until age 71 or 72 or 73 or 74, you get more benefits, which leaves money in the trust fund that can accrue earnings and gains. You don't force anybody to do anything, but you give an option. That's interesting. A fourth option is to move the money in the Social Security trust fund to something with potentially higher return, but with more risk. Right now, Social Security invests in low-risk government bonds, very safe, very low return. Without going into, we're going to buy Bitcoin, you could slightly expand the list of investment vehicles that Social Security's trust fund can be invested in, with the idea that there will be a little more volatility, but over time you should get a higher return, and that could close that gap that will eventually appear. And then lastly, you could also increase immigration, bring in people to work to pay into the system in order to even out that ratio. So we can fix this with some tweaks. You could raise the cap a little bit, and then you could offer greater benefits to people who choose to delay retirement a little more, increase immigration a little bit to increase the number of people paying in, and consider slightly higher yield, but slightly higher risk investments with some of the money. It's not brain surgery, but it's a political gridlock. And we have the solutions if only we could get our elected officials to put them in place. Lastly, mixing this specific issue of the Social Security Trust Fund generally with that of the national debt is also very dishonest, because the truth is Social Security is its own trust fund, and we can manage and make tweaks to that individually. The conversation about the debt is fine, but it really is a separate conversation. So after weeks of saying we would never do that, Mike Pence shows up and says, oh, yeah. We should definitely consider that. One of our sponsors is Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Don't you think it's time you stopped putting smoke and vape oils in your lungs? Zippix toothpicks are a convenient way to curb the nicotine cravings. Zippix toothpicks are super discreet. You can use them anytime, anywhere smoking and vaping aren't allowed, including flights, sporting events, in restaurants. They're available in 6 different flavors with options of 2 and 3 milligrams of nicotine. If you're not a nicotine user, Zippix also offers caffeine and B12 infused toothpicks. Zippix has already helped tens of thousands of customers ditch the cigarettes, ditch the vapes. They might be able to help you too. If you're a smoker or a vapor, give Zippix toothpicks a try. Your lungs will thank you. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com today. Save 10% with the code PACMAN10 at checkout. Just remember, you must be 21 or older to order. The link is down below.